All right, get ready to dive deep into a world you might think you know.
Okay.
Sailor Moon. Now, you requested this deep dive on this iconic series,
Hmm.
and let's be real. Who hasn't, spent a Saturday morning mesmerized by magical girls and moon prisms, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean,
Thought
who
so.
doesn't love a good magical girl transformation sequence?
Exactly. But what if I told you there's a side to this show that might surprise you?
Hmm.
Like a layer of complexity that's kind of hidden beneath those sparkly transformations.
It's true. Yeah. There's a lot more to Sailor Moon than what we might remember from our childhood.
Right.
What we might think of as like a lighthearted celebration of girl power actually delves into some surprisingly dark and even controversial territory.
Yeah, and that's what we're gonna get into today.
Absolutely.
Let's start with the violence.
Okay.
I was floored by how graphic the original manga gets. I mean, we've all seen those epic anime battles,
Right.
but the manga doesn't hold back. For example, there's a scene where the villain Koan, she doesn't just defeat a little girl, she
Yeah.
incinerates her.
Wow.
And there's even a panel where Sailor Moon's flesh is shown melting off of her face.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
It's intense. It makes you wonder if maybe those Saturday morning cartoons weren't as innocent as we thought.
Yeah, definitely raises questions about how these stories are adapted for different audiences.
Right.
Imagine if the anime had stayed true to the manga's visual style. I
Oh
mean,
gosh.
we'd be looking at a completely different rating, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes you think about what messages we were actually absorbing as kids, right?
Absolutely.
And speaking of things that might surprise you, let's talk about death.
Okay.
This isn't just a case of villains being blasted off to another dimension.
Right.
Sailor Moon actually deals with some pretty heavy losses.
Yeah.
In the episode Death of the Sailor Guardians, the tragic final battle,
Mm-hmm.
the Sailor Guardians don't just faint or get knocked out, they
Yeah.
actually die,
They do.
facing off against Queen Beryl.
It's a really powerful scene, even though they're eventually revived.
Yeah.
To see these characters who we've come to know and care for actually perish. It really raises the stakes.
Yeah.
Makes you question if happy endings are always guaranteed.
Right.
Do you remember that episode?
I do.
Did it hit differently for you watching it now versus as a kid?
Totally. Yeah, as a kid, I don't think I fully grasped the weight of what was happening.
Right.
But watching it now, it's oh, wow, they actually died.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a heavy moment for sure.
Now, on a slightly lighter note, let's talk about one of the more, shall we say, dramatic character exits.
Okay.
Uriel.
Yeah, Yuria.
This villain who's infamous for her, terrible driving.
Yeah.
Literally ends up driving off a cliff.
Yeah, just drives right off.
It's like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon gone wrong.
Totally. It's so over the top.
Right.
But what's interesting about Uriel's death is that it almost feels like a meta commentary on the tropes of the genre.
Oh, and
So often in these stories, the villains are punished for their actions,
right.
but it's usually in a more abstract or fantastical way.
Yeah.
Uriel, on the other hand, gets a very real-world consequence for her recklessness,
It definitely subverts expectations.
for sure.
And then, in stark contrast to Uriel's almost comedic end, we have Nephrite's death.
Oh, Nephrite.
He goes from being a straight-up villain
Right.
to falling in love with Usagi's friend Naru and sacrificing himself to protect her.
Yeah, his arc is really interesting. It gets you thinking about redemption
Mm.
and whether a villain can truly change.
Yeah.
His death is a powerful moment because it shows a genuine act of selfless love.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if his love for Naru is what ultimately redeemed him,
Right.
even if it came at the cost of his own life.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. We have to address one of the most talked about aspects of Sailor Moon.
Okay.
The relationship between Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune.
Right.
They were a pretty big deal,
Yeah, they were.
especially considering this show aired back in the 90s.
In the original Japanese version, they're very clearly portrayed as a lesbian couple.
Yeah.
But that relationship was changed to cousins in the English dub.
Wow.
And that decision speaks volumes about how LGBTQ plus representation was treated back then,
Yeah,
and raises some important questions about censorship and cultural differences.
for sure. And speaking of different versions, Sailor Moon Crystal, right?
Yes.
I've always found Usagi's characterization in Crystal fascinating,
Yeah.
especially compared to the original 90s anime.
It's a very different take on the character.
Yeah, she's not just older, she's
Yeah.
almost colder.
Yeah, it's a stark difference.
Yeah.
Take the Spectre sisters, for example.
Okay.
In the original anime, Sailor Moon purifies them, giving them a chance at a new life.
Right.
In Crystal, she doesn't hesitate to eliminate them.
It's like she doesn't even think twice.
Right.
What do you make of that change?
Well, it definitely makes her a more morally complex character.
Yeah.
It raises questions about what it means to be a hero
Right.
and the different ways justice can be served.
Does it make you question whether Crystal's Usagi is a true hero?
It's a valid question.
Yeah.
I think it depends on your perspective.
Right.
What do you think?
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, we can't forget the Sailor Starlights.
Oh, yes, the Sailor Starlights.
A boy band who transform into female Sailor Guardians.
They really challenge our understanding of gender
Mhm.
and identity.
Their very existence was controversial enough that the 5th season, Sailor Moon Sailor Stars, wasn't initially released in North America.
Right? It's a really interesting example of how cultural norms can influence the way stories are told and received.
It makes you wonder how differently they might be received today.
Yeah, times have definitely changed.
Right.
And I think there's a greater understanding and acceptance of gender fluidity now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how audiences would react to the Sailor Starlights today. And that's not all. Sailor Moon also features some moments that even today might raise an eyebrow or two.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some scenes that push the boundaries of what's considered appropriate for a kid's show.
Right, there are scenes where the Sailor Guardians are depicted in some pretty suggestive poses, and even moments that seem to hint at adult situations.
Like Usagi getting drunk at a party.
Which, of course, was changed to getting sick from sugar in the English dub.
Right, sugar doesn't quite have the same effect.
No, it doesn't.
It's amazing how much they try to sanitize for a younger audience.
It is.
But even as a kid, you could sense there was something more going on beneath the surface.
Yeah, you just knew something wasn't quite right about that sugar.
Exactly.
So it's clear that Sailor Moon is more than just glitter and tiaras.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a show that's willing to explore darker themes, push boundaries, and challenge societal norms.
It's a show that deserves a deeper look.
Yeah.
A chance to appreciate its complexities and its willingness to tackle topics that many other shows wouldn't dare touch.
I think that's what makes it so fascinating.
Me too.
And you know what's really fascinating is that this show, which premiered over 3 decades ago, still feels relevant today.
Right, the themes of identity,
Yeah.
love, loss, and the struggle against injustice are timeless.
And the way Sailor Moon tackles these themes with a blend of humor, action, and genuine emotion is what makes it so enduring.
Absolutely. It's a show that can be enjoyed on so many levels.
And I think that's part of what makes it so special.
I agree.
Okay, so we've talked about the darkness, the controversy,
Yeah.
but what about the heart of Sailor Moon? Because ultimately this is a show about love, hope, and the enduring power of friendship, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The Sailor Guardians, despite facing incredible danger and loss, never give up on each other or their mission.
Yeah.
They embody the true meaning of sisterhood
Right.
and prove that even in the face of darkness, love and friendship can prevail.
And then there's the epic love story between Usagi and Mamoru.
Oh, yes.
It's a classic tale of two souls destined to be together even across lifetimes.
Their love transcends time and space, literally.
Literally.
It's a reminder that love can conquer even the greatest obstacles.
And let's not forget the moments of humor sprinkled throughout the series.
Right. Those moments provide a nice balance to the heavier themes.
Yeah. Usagi's clumsiness and love of food,
Yes.
Luna's sassy commentary, Artemis's dry wit, they all add a layer of lightness and fun to the story.
Absolutely.
It's that balance of light and dark,
Right.
serious and silly
Yeah.
that makes Sailor Moon so captivating.
I completely agree.
So even though we've been digging into the less than sparkly side of Sailor Moon,
Right.
it's important to remember that at its core, this is a story about hope, courage, and the power of believing in yourself.
It's a message that resonates just as strongly today as it did when the show first premiered.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to the power of Sailor Moon's enduring legacy.
You know, one thing that really strikes me is how Sailor Moon managed to become such a global phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
You're talking people from all over the world connecting with this story, cosplaying, collecting merch, even getting tattoos.
It's incredible.
It really speaks to the universality of its themes.
Absolute love, friendship,
Mhm.
courage, self-acceptance. These are things that resonate with everyone, regardless of their background or culture.
And Sailor Moon presents those things in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking. It's a show that can make you laugh, cry, and cheer all at the same time.
And for many viewers, it was more than just entertainment.
Right.
It was a source of empowerment, particularly for young girls and women who saw themselves reflected in these strong, complex female characters.
Absolutely. It showed them that they could be both powerful and feminine, that
Mm.
they could fight for what they believed in, and that they
Okay.
could achieve anything they set their minds to.
And for many LGBTQ plus viewers, Sailor Moon, despite its flaws and censorship, offered a glimpse of representation and validation.
Yeah, it sparked conversations and challenged norms,
Mm-hmm.
paving the way for greater acceptance and understanding.
It's clear that Sailor Moon's impact extends far beyond the screen.
Yeah.
It's touched countless lives and left a lasting mark on popular culture.
And something we haven't even touched on yet is the music.
Oh, the music.
Those iconic themes are so catchy and memorable.
They really are.
It's like they're woven into the very fabric of the show.
Right, those opening and closing themes, the transformation musics, the battle anthems,
Mm-hmm.
they're all so wonderfully composed
Yeah.
and instantly recognizable.
It's impossible to hear them without feeling a rush of nostalgia and excitement.
Totally. It takes you right back.
The music adds a whole other dimension to the viewing experience.
Absolutely.
And it's aged incredibly well.
It has.
You can listen to those tracks today, and they still evoke the same feelings of magic and adventure.
It's a testament to the quality of the music and its connection to the show's enduring themes.
If you're looking for a musical trip down memory lane, I highly recommend revisiting the Sailor Moon soundtrack.
Me too.
It's a true masterpiece.
It is.
And along with the music, we have to talk about the incredible visual artistry of the show.
Oh, yes, the visuals are stunning.
Those vibrant colors, the sparkling effects, the beautifully detailed transformation sequences, the unique and memorable character designs.
Mhm.
It's a visual feast for the eyes.
It's truly captivating.
The way the animators brought this magical world to life is nothing short of breathtaking.
Yeah, and even with all the newer anime out there today, Sailor Moon's visuals still hold up.
They do.
It's a testament to the talent and dedication of the creative team behind the show.
They poured their hearts and souls into making something truly special.
Absolutely. Sailor Moon set a high bar for animation quality in anime,
Yeah.
and it continues to inspire artists and animators today.
Okay, so we've talked about the original anime,
Mm-hmm.
but what about those newer adaptations?
Right, there are a few different versions out there.
We've got Sailor Moon Crystal, which is a more faithful adaptation of the manga. Yes.
And then there's the live-action Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon series, which is, well, let's just say it's a very unique take on the story.
It's definitely a different interpretation.
They each offer a fresh perspective on the Sailor Moon universe
Mm-hmm.
and showcase the enduring appeal of these beloved characters.
And with the recent release of the Sailor Moon Eternal movies, which adapt the dream arc of the manga, there's even more Sailor Moon content to explore.
It's a great time to be a Sailor Moon fan.
It is.
And as we step back and look at the bigger picture,
Mhm.
it's hard to overstate the cultural significance of Sailor Moon.
It's sparked conversations about gender sexuality and female empowerment, challenging traditional norms, and providing representation for marginalized groups.
And it's done all of this while remaining a fun, entertaining, and engaging show for viewers of all ages.
Right. It's a show that can be enjoyed by people of all backgrounds and generations.
It's a true cultural phenomenon,
It is.
and its legacy continues to inspire and influence us today. Absolutely. Sailor Moon reminds us of the power of storytelling, the importance of representation, and the enduring appeal of characters who fight for love, justice, and the power of the moon.
Now we've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to delve into.
There is.
We haven't even touched on the numerous spin-offs, movies, and stage productions that have expanded the Sailor Moon universe.
It's a vast and multifaceted world just waiting to be explored.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we want to leave you with a question to ponder.
All right, I like it.
Now that you've seen a different side of Sailor Moon, how has your perspective on the show changed?
That's a great question.
What new insights have you gained?
Hmm.
What resonates with you differently now than it did before?
I think that's something worth reflecting on.
We'd love to hear your thoughts,
Yeah.
but for now we encourage you to continue exploring the world of Sailor Moon
Mm.
and to share your own reflections on this iconic series.
And join us for part 2, where we'll take an even deeper dive into the world of Sailor Moon. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Sailor Moon.
It's amazing how much there is to unpack when it comes to Sailor Moon. Like, we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so many layers to this show.
And in part 1, we explored like some of the darker, more controversial aspects.
Right, we talked about the violence, the deaths,
Yeah.
the suggestive content.
But let's shift our focus now to one of the most compelling and groundbreaking elements of Sailor Moon,
Okay.
its approach to LGBTQ plus representation.
This is where Sailor Moon really pushes boundaries, especially considering its time period.
Right.
Remember the show premiered in Japan back in 1992, a time when LGBTQ plus visibility was significantly less common than it is today?
And yet the original Japanese version features several characters and relationships that clearly challenge heteronormative assumptions.
Exactly.
We already touched on Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune.
Right, the iconic duo.
But let's dive a bit deeper into their dynamic.
Okay, so their relationship, though, heavily censored in some international versions, is incredibly significant.
Yeah.
It's not just hinted at or implied.
Right.
It's portrayed with genuine affection and a depth of emotion that really resonated with viewers,
Yeah.
especially those yearning for representation in mainstream media.
They're not just teammates.
Right.
They're partners in life and in battle.
Exactly. They share a deep connection, a shared history, and a level of trust that transcends the typical bonds of friendship.
Their love story, even with its tragic elements, is a testament to the power of human connection
Yeah.
and the importance of finding someone who truly understands and accepts you for who you are.
I think that's a really powerful message.
And their impact on fans, particularly LGBTQ plus viewers, has been profound.
Absolutely.
Many have shared stories about how seeing themselves reflected in these characters gave them a sense of validation and belonging
Right.
at a time when such representation was scarce.
It's a reminder that representation matters.
Yeah.
It can be incredibly powerful to see yourself reflected in the media you consume,
Right.
to know that your identity and your experiences are valid and worthy of being seen.
Now, beyond Uranus and Neptune, there are other instances of LGBTQ plus representation in the original Japanese version
Right.
that were altered or completely erased in the certain dubs.
Unfortunately, yeah, that happened quite a bit back then.
A prime example is the relationship between Zoisite and Kunzite,
Oh, yeah.
two of Queen Beryl's minions.
In the original, their relationship is very clearly romantic.
Mm-hmm.
They're shown to be deeply devoted to each other,
Right.
sharing intimate moments,
Yeah.
and supporting each other through thick and thin.
But in some international versions, their relationship was either downplayed or completely erased.
Yeah. It's sad, but it's true.
In some cases, Zoisite was even given a female voice actor
Wow.
to further distance him from any romantic connection with Kunzite.
That's a pretty drastic change.
It's a stark example of how censorship can not only distort a story,
Mhm.
but also erase valuable representation.
This kind of censorship sends a harmful message.
Yeah.
It suggests that LGBTQ plus love is something to be ashamed of, something to be hidden away.
Thankfully, attitudes have shifted since then.
Right.
But it's important to acknowledge the impact of these decisions
Yeah.
and to celebrate the progress that's been made.
I agree. It's a reminder that we still have work to do in terms of achieving true equality and representation for all.
Absolutely. And it underscores the importance of supporting creators who are pushing boundaries and telling diverse stories.
Couldn't agree more.
And speaking of pushing boundaries,
Okay.
Sailor Moon doesn't shy away from exploring complex themes related to gender identity and expression.
That's right.
The Sailor Starlights, a boy band who transform into female Sailor Guardians,
Oh, yeah.
really challenge our preconceived notions about gender roles.
Their existence throws a wrench into traditional binary thinking and forces us to consider the fluidity of gender identity.
It's a bold move, especially for a show aimed at a younger audience.
It really is.
And even beyond specific characters, Sailor Moon often subverts gender stereotypes through its storylines and themes.
Yeah, like the Sailor Guardians themselves are all strong, capable women who fight for what they believe in.
Right, they're not damsels in distress waiting to be rescued by a prince.
They're heroes in their own right, and they
Yeah.
demonstrate that strength and femininity are not mutually exclusive.
They're each unique individuals with their own personalities, strengths, and weaknesses, and their relationships with each other are complex and multifaceted, going beyond the typical tropes of female friendship often seen in media.
Absolutely. They support each other, challenge each other,
Yeah.
and ultimately grow together as individuals and as a team.
Sailor Moon's approach to gender and sexuality is a testament to its willingness to explore complex and sometimes controversial topics
Right.
in a way that is both entertaining and thought-provoking.
It's a show that encourages viewers to question their assumptions
Yeah.
and to embrace diversity in all its forms.
Yeah. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate something that often gets overlooked when discussing Sailor Moon.
Okay, what's that?
It's incredible soundtrack.
Oh, the music.
The music is so much more than just background noise.
It really is.
It's integral to the storytelling,
Mhm.
amplifying the emotions of each scene and creating a truly immersive experience.
The music in Sailor Moon is iconic.
Achilles.
Those catchy themes, the soaring melodies, the epic battle anthems, they all contribute to the show's magic and memorability.
Those opening and closing themes, Moonlight Densetsu and Heart Moving, are instant earworms.
I know, right?
You hear those first few notes and you're transported back to your childhood, watching Sailor Moon and the gang fight evil by moonlight.
It's amazing how music can evoke such powerful feelings of nostalgia.
And the music in Sailor Moon does more than just trigger memories. It enhances the storytelling.
Right.
It heightens the drama, the romance, the humor, and the action.
It's like the music is another character in the show,
Yeah.
guiding our emotional journey as viewers.
Exactly. And the quality of the music is undeniable.
Oh, it's top notch.
It's beautifully composed, expertly orchestrated, and perfectly matched to the visuals.
It's no wonder the Sailor Moon soundtrack has remained so popular over the years.
You can listen to those tracks today, and they still hold up.
Right. They're timeless.
They are. And speaking of timeless, let's talk about the show's visual style.
Okay. The animation.
Even after all these years, Sailor Moon's animation is still stunning.
Yeah. It really holds up.
Those vibrant colors, those fluid movements, those incredibly detailed transformation sequences.
It's pure eye candy.
It is. The animators really poured their hearts and souls into creating a visually captivating world.
And the character designs are so iconic
Right.
and instantly recognizable.
Sailor Moon's pigtails and red ribbons.
Yes.
Sailor Mars's flowing black hair and fiery red outfit.
Sailor Jupiter's green and pink ensemble.
Each Sailor Scout has her own unique look that reflects her personality and powers.
And the villains are just as memorable with their elaborate costumes and menacing expressions.
The visual design of Sailor Moon is a true testament to the creativity and talent of the artists behind the show.
I agree.
It's clear that they weren't just creating a cartoon, they were
Right.
crafting a work of art.
And that artistry has inspired countless other anime manga,
Mm-hmm.
and even live-action adaptations.
Sailor Moon set a high bar for animation quality,
Yeah.
and its influence can still be seen today.
Now, we've talked about the original anime, but let's not forget about the other iterations of Sailor Moon that have emerged over the years.
Right, like Sailor Moon Crystal.
Yes, the more faithful adaptation of the manga.
And then there's the live-action Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon series, which is, well, let's just say it's a unique and very campy take on the story.
It's definitely a different interpretation.
Each adaptation offers a different perspective on the Sailor Moon universe.
Right, and they all have their own merits.
Crystal, for example, is a bit more serious and dramatic than the original anime. While the live-action series is full of over-the-top humor and action.
Well, let's not forget about the Sailor Moon musicals, which are incredibly popular in Japan.
Oh, yeah, those are so much fun.
They bring the characters to life in a whole new way, with elaborate costumes, impressive choreography, and catchy songs.
It's amazing how Sailor Moon has been reimagined and reinvented
Yeah.
across different mediums and for different audiences.
It speaks to the enduring power of the story
Mm-hmm.
and its ability to connect with people from all walks of life.
So what does all of this tell us about the cultural impact of Sailor Moon?
Well, Sailor Moon is more than just a show. It's a phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's sparked important conversations about gender sexuality and representation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's empowered countless viewers to embrace their individuality and fight for what they believe in.
It's a show that has broken down barriers and challenged norms.
Right.
It's given a voice to the marginalized and inspired generations of fans to make the world a more inclusive and accepting place.
Sailor Moon's legacy is one of love, hope, and the power of believing in yourself.
So true.
It's a message that resonates just as strongly today as it did when the show first premiered.
Mm.
And it's a testament to the enduring power of stories that speak to our hearts and minds.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we want to leave you with a few things to consider.
Right.
What aspects of Sailor Moon have resonated most deeply with you?
Yeah. What parts of the story have stuck with you?
How has the show impacted your understanding of gender sexuality or representation?
These are all important questions to reflect on.
And as you continue your journey through the Sailor Moon universe, keep an open mind and an open heart.
Yeah,
There's always something new to discover.
absolutely.
And the magic of Sailor Moon never truly fades.
It's a timeless classic for a reason.
I don't know about you, but I'm like seeing Sailor Moon in a whole new light after all that.
Right. It's amazing how much depth there is to this show.
Like, we might have just thought it was a kid's show, but there's so much more to it.
It really challenges that whole idea of what a children's show can be.
Right, like it's got these mature themes, and it's pushing boundaries and starting these, like, important conversations.
Yeah, and it does all of that while still being like a fun show with magical girls and transformations.
It's like you open up this treasure chest expecting, like, candy and toys,
Yeah.
and then you find all these, like, historical artifacts and stuff.
That's a great way to put it.
It's still fun, but it's got this, like, whole other layer of meaning.
I think that's a big part of why it's resonated with so many people over the years.
Yeah, like across generations and cultures.
Totally. Kids can enjoy the adventure and the magic,
Mm-hmm.
and adults can appreciate all the deeper stuff.
Like the characters and the relationships.
Exactly.
It's crazy to think, like, Sailor Moon was tackling things like gender identity and LGBTQ representation back in the 90s.
I know, right? Way ahead of its time.
Like when those topics were, like, way more taboo.
It really makes you wonder how people would react if it came out today.
Right. Would it be, like, super controversial, or would people be like, finally?
It's an interesting thought.
And beyond, like, all the social impact and stuff,
Yeah.
you gotta give Sailor Moon props for the artistry.
Oh, absolutely. The music, the animation,
Everything is top-notch.
they really set a high standard for anime.
Like, those transformation sequences are just burned into my memory.
The music, the lights, the poses,
So epic.
it's pure magic.
And the characters are just so well designed.
Yeah, each one is unique and memorable.
And they have their own style and personality.
Exactly.
It's no wonder this show has become such a huge franchise.
It's got all the elements of a classic story.
Right. Compelling characters, a gripping plot, amazing visuals, and a message of hope.
That resonates with everyone.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we just want to leave you with this thought.
Hmm.
Don't underestimate anything just because it seems simple.
Yeah, there's often a lot more to a story than meets the eye.
Like with Sailor Moon, you might think it's just another magical girl show.
But it's so much more than that.
Yeah. Underneath all the glitter and transformations is a world full of depth and meaning.
And that's the beauty of a good story. It can entertain, inspire, challenge, and even change us.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop diving deep.
You never know what you might find.